Hey class, it's another math video for you. You'll be starting geometry today. It's just an introduction to geometry. It's not a whole big galore of having to figure out something really hard. The first thing we need to go over is we're on page 241 in your math book. And it says Introduction to Geometry. Alright class, so if you look at your book on page 241, there's some terminology, some words you need to know what they mean and what they are. So the first word is point. That's a point. It's the same thing in your book. A point is represented by a dot. You can almost think like period. Then you have a line segment. Which is represented by a group of points having two endpoints. And if you have two line segments, they're usually congruent, which means they're the exact same. So a line segment has two endpoints. It doesn't keep going, it has two endpoints. Alright, then we have a line. And the reason it's different from a line segment is a line keeps going and going. It has no endpoint. It goes on and on and on. Then you have a ray. It only goes in one direction continuously. It does have one endpoint. So, a line is represented by a group of points having no endpoints. A line extends indefinitely in two opposite directions. A ray is represented by a group of points having one endpoint, and it goes infinity in one direction, just goes on forever. Then you have something, an angle. And it's the same thing in your book. And an angle has a vertex. This point right there is the vertex. That point right there on an angle. And an angle is two rays that share a common endpoint, and their endpoint is the vertex. Okay? Then you have intersecting lines. Intersecting lines are lines that cross each other at some point and only one time. Kind of, I think of like an intersection. This would be an intersection. These are perpendicular lines. They are lines that form intersecting lines that form right angles. Means that you can draw a little square there. And that means it's perpendicular. Then you have parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines that never intersect. They just run side by side forever. They're never going to cross each other. They're always going to run side by side. They can also go up and down. So they can go horizontal or vertical. And hit the parallel, they go side by side. They're parallel lines. So that's the terminology that you need is point, line segment, line, ray, angle, intersecting lines, perpendicular lines, and parallel lines. Okay? Now if you would turn to your book, math book on page 243. And we're going to talk about the different shapes in geometry. Most of you should know a lot of these shapes. Now for geometric shapes, it has to be a closed shape. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a triangle to be a closed shape. It can be something kind of funky, kind of weird looking, but it has to be closed. Now that is not a geometric shape. It's not a simple closed shape. It has an opening in it. These two would be considered a closed figure. This one would not be. So if you look in the box on page 243, it talks about the different geometric shapes. A simple closed figure does not have a point of intersection. Then a similar figure has the same shape but not the same size. So if you take the triangle, for example, these are similar. They're the same shape, but they're not the same size. Now, then you have congruent figures. They have the same size and the same shape. So, if I drew true big triangles, those are congruent. They're the same size, they're the same shape. Then you have a polygon as a simple closed figure made up of line segments. Then you have a triangle. How many sides does a triangle have? 3. How many vertices does it have? 1, 2, 3. Then you have a quadrilateral is a polygon with 4 sides. The word quad means 4 sides. You have a parallelogram as a quadrilateral having opposite sides which are parallel. There's your parallel. Here's your 2 parallel lines. They're and parallel lines. A rectangle is a parallelogram having 4 right angles, and a corner means perpendicular lines forming a right angle. If you look at a rectangle, you can put 4 right angles in it. A square is a rectangle having 4 congruent sides, means all the sides are exactly the same. Okay? Then you have a rhombus is a parallelogram having 4 congruent sides. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral having only 2 sides that are parallel. A pentagon is a polygon with 5 sides. A hexagon is a polygon with 6 sides. A heptagon is a polygon with 7 sides. An octagon is a polygon with 8 sides. And then the points, and then if you look at 16 in that box, the points where the sides of polygons meet are called the vertexes. They're often labeled with capital letters. So like this, those are the vertexes, and they usually are labeled with capital letters. When 2 opposite vertices are joined by a line, the line is called a diagonal. So here is one diagonal line, it's B and C, and then A and D is one diagonal line. Alright, I want you to look in your math book on page 244. and I'm going to go over problem 6 with you. So there it is. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. And these are true, false questions, okay? So let's look at 6A on page 244. The two diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. That means if you have a rectangle and you have your two diagonal lines, are they the same? Are they congruent? Yes, they are, so it would be true. B, a square and a circle can be congruent. Can a square and a circle be congruent? No, they cannot be. They're not the same shape. They might be the same looking size, but they're not the same shape, so they cannot be congruent. C, a line segment has a definite beginning and ending. Here's your line segment. Does it have a definite ending and beginning? Yes, it does, so that's true. D, a ray has a definite beginning and ending. Well, think about the ray. Does the ray have, it has a definite ending, but does it have a beginning, but does it have a definite ending? No, a ray keeps going on and on and on. E, straight lines intersect at only one point. True. Remember when I did the lines like this? They only intersect at one point. They're only going to intersect at one point. Okay, F, a hexagon has a 5-sided polygon? Yes, it does. G, a rhombus is a parallelogram having 4 congruent sides, means all the sides are the same. That is true. And H, a triangle has 3 sides and 3 vertices. Whoa. I told you wrong on F. Let's go back to H though. A triangle has 3 sides and 3 vertices is true. I read F wrong. I read it as a pentagon has 5 sides. Yes, a pentagon has 5 sides, but this one says a hexagon is a 5-sided figure. Is a hexagon have 5 sides? No, a hexagon has 6, so that is actually false. I read it wrong. So a hexagon has 6 sides, a pentagon has 5. So, that's your introduction to geometry. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know. Get your parents to text me. Even call me if you need to. I really miss you guys. I really wish I could be in the classroom with you so I could really explain this to you. I feel like I don't have the feedback that I usually have in the classroom. Well, I really miss you, and I'll see you next time, hopefully. Bye.